Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video, and welcome to Baleal. This place is really lovely. It's absolutely gorgeous, pincered in by two wonderful beaches, surf beaches. They're like tribes out there. It's gas looking at them. Today we are just doing some classic seascape photography, and I am delighted to be back here because Orla and I visited here probably about 7 years ago, and there's always one place that I always knew I would want to come back to if I ever had the opportunity to revisit. Let me turn you around here. So just to give you an idea of what that is, that town over there is Peniche, which is a relatively big town, but where we are at the moment is it's just like a tiny speck, you know, but a wonderful, wonderful place nonetheless. And I figured a nice way to, you know, do this video in particular is just to kind of bring you along in terms of the thought process that I go through when arriving at a place like this. Now, the time Orla and I were here, we were here for like 5 minutes, if even. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was this spit of land that I am on my way over to now. And I really, really hope I'm remembering it correctly because it's wonderful. But just to even look, as I'm walking here now, I'm going to turn you around because look at this absolute wonderfulness right here. Look at that. Oh yeah, I mean, there's loads going on there, you know. This is the thought process that I go through when arriving at a place like this, particularly one as stunning as this. So I figure there's going to be many, many photographic opportunities to be had for sure. And also as well, there's this colossal storm, another one. Supposedly this is the worst like winter Portugal and Spain have seen for decades. And of course we're here at that time. So there's another storm about to hit the coast tonight. So we're going to hunker down a little bit. And poor Orla, her knee is still not the best, so we're going to hunker down a fair bit. But I say tonight though, the conditions might be okay for you know, decent light, maybe. But nonetheless, I am rambling. This is probably going to be a rambling video. How many minutes do we have to? If you're still here after 2.5 minutes, I congratulate you. Yes, but here is this spit of land. Here, let me turn you around. So, look at that. Absolutely fantastic. So there is loads going on. Even looking down here at the floor, there's leading lines for days. So we will be making some photographs for sure. But I'm going to stop rambling because it's only like, what time is it now? It's 2:45, so it's still very early days yet. And so the idea is that I'm going to take you back to where we're camped as well, because there's some more spots there too. But what I'll do is, I really, really like the idea of doing a time lapse here. Look at this. Whoa, I'm right here at the edge. Hold on, hold on. Look at that. You catch a bit of light on those rocks. 4 minutes in, folks. This is a ramble. I really, really hope you're still here. And fair play to you if you are. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to set up a little time lapse and let that run because I like the idea of looking at a time lapse of this scene. And yeah, and let's have a continue to explore and think about the images that we ultimately want to try and create. So this is really exciting. Like, I am super hyped. Now, oh my God, if there's a tiny break in the cloud, let me turn you around. I love turning this around. So you see there's a tiny bit of blue. I hope you can see that. Oh my God. If that bit of blue stayed there, that would be absolutely fantastic. But even if it doesn't, there's so much going on here that really, you're going to be making photographs and they're going to be awesome. So I'm super excited. But anyways, it's still very, very early yet, and going to head back to the car, let the light come down a little bit, organize, maybe do a bit of work, and then we'll get proper shooting. Well, actually, just before we do that, let me take you back to pretty much where the car is, because there's another little section I want to show you. Hold on there a second, let's have a wander back. So folks, look at this behind me. So we are essentially now just underneath the White House that you would have seen from a little clip earlier. And as you can see here from behind me, I hope you can see, on my glasses I can't see the screen, but you can see the gorgeous cliff edge here to the spit of land that's at the end. And wow, because look, if this little gap of blue, did I say this already? If that stays there, oh my God, you're talking like cliffside glow loveliness. So fingers and toes crossed. Seascape photography gods, please. It's going to be so rainy for the next little while. So but really, like I said earlier, I'm beyond excited about this location, and wow, I'm so thrilled we decided to come here. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling, head back to the car. So the next time you see me, we're going to be out shooting. Let's go. So wow, we have begun. We're a bit early still, but that's totally cool with me because this place is absolutely wonderful. Look at this scene behind me here. The sea is just churning. There's a storm, like I mentioned, just coming, and it is howling these waves up. So it's really, really special. Fingers and toes crossed, we still get a bit of light. There's a bit of cloud on the horizon after moving in, but if we can catch a little bit of a break, we might be okay. But as it stands right now, have a look at this. Oh yeah. And I am just playing around with some different exposures at the moment and having a really, really awesome time doing it because it's such a gorgeous scene. So if any of these first few images turn out to be any good, I'm gonna pop them up on the screen for you right now. Welcome friends to the ASMR Photography Studio, and welcome to this absolutely wonderful place. I am absolutely delighted with the first set of images that I'm going to share with you now. While the light was just the tiniest bit too harsh, it really allowed me to play around with some nice shutter speeds, and the colour in the water was just absolutely incredible. That's one thing I have found in relation to shooting a bit earlier in the day, is that you get these really, really bright scenes, but when the conditions are this wonderful and the colour in the water, it just negates the fact that you're shooting a bit earlier in the day and you don't mind it so much. It's just so wonderful, and this particular spot has just been such a joy to shoot at. I played around with just a few different compositions, as you can see, and I'm delighted with all of them. particularly this portrait orientation one. I really love the rocks in the foreground, that they add a nice kind of anchor and weight to lead us through the frame. But overall, I'm super duper delighted with how they all turned out. And again, just playing around with that different shutter speed really enables you to be a bit more creative in how you ultimately create the aesthetic that you're after. I was super delighted with how these images turned out, and bodes well for a nice evening of photography. Wow, oh my god, this place is insane. With the storm off, the waves are just absolutely churning, and it is absolutely magic. Look at this behind me here. Oh yeah, this is absolutely stellar. And you know what's amazing about this as well is that there's these fishermen that are kind of dotted around this scene behind me right now, and it just adds such wonderful kind of like focus points. It's like the real nice human elements with all. It's absolutely marvelous. No direct light. I think I may have got one with direct light on it, so we'll keep our fingers and toes crossed. Might have to blend them up a bit, but we shall see. But I am going to stay here for another little bit, and then I am going to continue on to the very end where I showed you at the beginning. Wow, it is absolutely wonderful here. It's just, let me turn you around so you can get a good look. Wow, it's just so gorgeous. I think this may be one of my favorite places to photograph in Portugal. I'm so thrilled. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm just waiting for some big waves to crash on those rocks across the way. So if any of these images turn out to be any good, I'm gonna pop them up on the screen for you now. So I did indeed capture a bit of light on the sides of the houses and on these wonderful rocks here as well, you see in the foreground. Now, as I mentioned, I did end up blending these images. The water in this frame is actually taken from a different frame. Well, just little parts of it. The splash underneath the house across the way, and then the nice ripple in the foreground. But overall, I am delighted with this image. I really love it, and for me, really just kind of sings, Portugal coasts, and just the colour in the water, colour on the rocks, and of course then the nice bit of light on the buildings, and then that beautiful sky really just bringing it all together for me. I'm just so happy with how this one turned out. I did shoot a couple of landscape orientation shots, but for me this portrait orientation shot I think just worked itself a bit better in terms of the leading line we have from the bottom, the cliffside here, leading us up into this wonderful focal point that is these houses, and of course then that gorgeous water. Super delighted with this one. So I have come back to one of the spots that we were at earlier today, and it is just absolutely stunning. Like really, these rocks are just so gnarly looking. I mean, the sun does come out for the briefest of moments. It really adds such a beautiful punch of contrast, and it's so gorgeous. I'm actually shooting a bit of a longer exposure, as I would have probably rambled about in the ASMR photography lab. I was shooting at about half a second for those previous shots, but right now I'm actually shooting at about 20 seconds or so. I feel like the scene kind of would look a bit nicer as a bit more of an ethereal kind of vibe, and so far I'm really loving the preview here on the back of the camera. So this place is absolutely worth its weight in gold. I see another photographer up there. I might go up and say hello. But I found myself a bit more of a sheltered area, so if this particular image turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you now. This particular image I think might be my favorite from the whole day. I absolutely love it, and I was so delighted when the sun broke through the clouds and hit the sides of these rocks here. It's all I wanted when I was scouting and looking around, was just to have a bit of light on these rocks. I'm playing around then with some different exposures to help guide this channel, this leading line that we get from the bottom right up throughout the frame, and then that texture in the sky is just so beautiful. Overall, I really do love this image, between the pop of the green in the water and then the kind of moody blue in the sky, and then that beautiful contrast of light and shadow on either side flanking this channel of water. Really just brings this image together so wonderfully for me, and I really do love it. And again, like that previous one, really speaks to the kind of Portugal coast that I have grown so accustomed to photographing. So I'm really happy with this one. Wow, folks, like, this is the stuff that it's just, oh wow, it's just so amazing. This scene that I'm looking at right now, I'm gonna call it like stuck in turmoil or something like that. I'm just focusing on this rock, this fella that we were looking at earlier. I have switched to my mid-range zoom, probably at about maybe 50 mil or so, and I'm just looking at that and the turmoil that is around it, and it is like, as far as I can tell on the back of the camera, probably maybe going to be one of my favorite pictures of the year so far, because I just love it for its simplicity and its clean wildness. But I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you now in just a few minutes. Yeah, wow, this is just incredible. The light is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. We're getting some really crashing waves. Yeah, it's just magic. It's just absolutely magic. So again, like I was talking about earlier, in relation to kind of scouting and these kinds of things, it's always nice because you kind of have an idea. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to hop A, B, C, and D, because I might actually go back to the very first picture that we took in the set of images that we're going through now, because I love the idea of that wide angle shot, and if the sky catches a bit of light, for me, I think that'll be a really, really nice composition for that. But as we progress our way through the stepping stones of what we were doing earlier, it's really just about trying to pre-visualize and just trying to keep in mind what it was that initially kind of caught your eye as you were walking your way through in scouting mode. But I'm going to stop rambling because I'm going to fire. I want just one more of this, and if it turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you now. So this is the result of my stuck in turmoil kind of image. It's such a wonderful scene. I love the opportunity of getting to photograph these kind of isolated subjects and just this swirling vortex of water as it crashes and bashes around it. Now this is a blend of two images. The water on the right hand side that you see is one frame, and then the water on the left hand side is another frame, but then the rock itself is from the left hand side frame, because I actually put a polarizer on, which I forgot to mention in the ramblings, and for me it just really helps to take away a bit of the glare that you can see on the rock and punch that orange color a lot more, and it really helps emphasize those kind of spots of light on the rock. But overall, I'm absolutely in love with this image. The color in the water is just so beautiful, and for me, I shot it, I think I was shooting at about half a second or so, and just for me that's just such perfect time, and it's such a wonderful shutter speed to shoot water like this, and again, like I say, just that stagnant rock in the middle really emphasizes the motion all around. I'm really, really happy with this one. Well, you know, it's always really wonderful chatting with other photographers that you meet along the way. And what a place to have a conversation about photography, because it is absolutely incredible here. Really, I you know, like I say, I think it may be one of my favorite spots here in Portugal. May have to add it to the list of a potential little workshop we got going. We might be. I may even have to add it to the list for a potential workshop here. It's just so beautiful. It's so amazing. Just compositions everywhere. I hope I've captured it in some meaningful way. But right now, probably my last shot we'll see is only really in a few minutes left for the sunset. I did go over to that shot we were looking at first. It's just there's no light. There's just unfortunately no light. And for me, the scene only really works with a bit of light. But right now, I'm actually capturing this really beautiful kind of mood on this shot, looking back at the White House that we would have seen throughout the course of the day. And I am absolutely loving it. I'm just waiting for a couple of big splashes to happen because the sea is pretty wild. So if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, I'm going to pop them up on the screen for you now. So I was tossing up between this image and another image for the last one to share with you fine folks this evening, and I ultimately settled on this one because the other image that I had was just a bit further back, a bit wider, still a portrait orientation, and it's just too similar to the previous one that we were looking at. For me, this one, without having any kind of rocks or anything in the foreground or along the side of the image, really helps kind of emphasize the water in the frame as it smashes into these rocks across the way. And then of course you've got that beautiful house sitting on top of the rocks. And you know, while I was kind of, you know, moaning about not having any light in the sky, it's one beautiful thing about raw files is that, you know, even though if it's a tiny bit of light over there and color, you're able to find it and then emphasize it a bit. So I'm super happy with how this image turned out. It's got a real kind of moody, stormy kind of vibe to it, and I absolutely love it for that. It is one single exposure as well, which was great. I didn't have to do any blending here because the water was just so active, and it really helped you know, create this kind of beautiful aesthetic I was looking for. And the way that the darker sides of the water lead to the splash on the rock, ultimately to the house and then to the sky. For me, it just all comes together so beautifully, and I'm really delighted with how this one as our final image turned out, and what a wonderful place to photograph. Wow, what an absolutely wonderful day of photography this has been. It far exceeded any expectations I had. Now, we didn't manage to get any of that kind of beautifully golden sunset light, but we captured some beautiful mood towards the end of the evening, and it was just absolutely magic. This place is like if you come to Portugal, you need to come here kind of place to photograph, obviously. Well, to visit too, it's a gorgeous place. But nonetheless, I hope this video has made sense in relation to me arriving at a place, having a bit of a scout, giving you a bit of a thought process behind the images that I ultimately, you know, want to try and create and want to find when coming to a place like this. It's just so magical. But for now, we are going to hunker down and try and you know, evade this storm as best we can. I think we're just going to find shelter for the next couple of days. Wow, the water is just, let me just turn you around one last time. Wow, absolutely magic. So as I say, we are going to hide away from this storm, and I need to edit and work. So lots to do and lots to catch up on, but nonetheless, fun times has been had. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please do hit that like button. And if you fancy following along for more of this epic European road trip we find ourselves on, you're most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.